going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made these beautiful, delicious, smoky, deep-fried, amazing Wagyu brisket Katsu Sandos. That's right, folks. I smoked a Wagyu brisket, deep-fried it, made some milk bread, made a Katsu sauce, and we're about to eat probably the last meal of my life. Coming up! This is a brisket. Patted dry. And this is, in fact, an American Wagyu brisket. Picked this up at my local HEB, clocking in at about 150 bucks. But you know, if we're gonna be making Wagyu brisket Katsu Sandos, we need to start with the best stuff. So, first things first, we need to get this thing trimmed up. Starting where I always do, on this big chunk of decal fat right on the back. Don't need that. Take some of the silver skin off the backside. Always be rounding our corners. You know the drill, folks. You've seen me trim briskets plenty of times. Been a minute since I cooked a Wagyu brisket, though. And you know, this time of year is the time of year to spring for the good stuff. Backside looking pretty good. Another big chunk of fat right up here. Start taking down the fat cap. Flatten out this top point muscle. Starting to look like a nicely trimmed brisket. Fat cap's looking pretty good. Take a little more off of this lean. Chud scrape. And now we'll just give this thing some shape. Taking off this big chunk of lean on the backside here. Square everything up. Make ourselves a bunch of Wagyu burgers, some Wagyu beef tallow. It's gonna be a good week. And there we go. Looking pretty good to me. Nice shape, nice trim on there. Good amount of fat cap, not too much, not too little. Nice and aerodynamic, nice and smooth. I think it's about time we season this thing up. For our rub today, I'm going with my classic SPG, which is 2 parts 16 mesh black pepper. On sale now at shopchuds.com. To 1 part diamond crystal kosher salt, and 1/2 part granulated garlic. It's a classic for a reason, folks. Starting on the bottom, we're just gonna go on with a nice heavy coating of our rub. Pretty standard procedure today, folks. And because this rub is so pepper heavy, you really can't overdo it. Because too much pepper is never a problem in my book, because it's all gonna roast away and smoke away in the smoker, so it's not gonna be too intense. But you can oversalt a brisket, but not with a 2-to-1 ratio like this. Flip it over. Of course, I chose the windiest day, getting salt in my eyes. And please, folks, as always, don't forget the sides. Come on, Santa's watching. Looking good to me. Let's fire up the pit. Have yourself a merry little Christmas with a snake inside your boot. And on the pit we go. How you doing, buddy? Fat cap up, fatty side toward the fire. As we always do, I'm gonna rock this pit around 250 to 275 for the first 3-4 hours. And then I'll probably bump it up to anywhere between 275 and 300 until it's time to wrap this thing up. Several hours later, this brisket's looking good. Nice and barky, reading right around 170, 175. So we're gonna give it the old foil boat. Shocker, I know. Yeah, looking like a brisket. Real nice. Beautiful. And now back on the pit we go for probably only another hour or so until it comes up to temp and is feeling nice and tender. And just like that, this thing is up to temp, looking nice and soft, nice and squishy, feeling nice and tender. So into my toaster oven this goes for a nice long overnight heated rest at 140 degrees. And we'll check back in on this thing tomorrow. Next up, we need to go ahead and make a loaf of bread for these eventual Katsu Sandos. Starting by making a tangzong by adding some water and some bread flour to our little skillet here. And the tangzong is really what makes Japanese milk bread different than a regular loaf. So just gonna let this cook down until it is nice and thick. It's one of the rare occasions I'll bust out the old non-stick pan. But as this cooks down, it's gonna gelatinize that flour and it's gonna lead to an extra squishy and soft loaf of bread. And I've seen various versions of this that differ when it comes to how much you're gonna cook this down. Some say they want it to be pourable. Some people like to cook it down until it's a complete paste. But for me, this is looking just about perfect. Let this cool down. Next up, into a stand mixer, going in with some warm milk, some yeast, our sugar, and 2 eggs. And get that nice and mixed up. Followed by our bread flour, our kosher salt, and some milk powder. And knead this until it all comes together. Probably should add that tangzong we just made too. Almost forgot. And once the dough is formed, in we go with our softened butter. And let this knead for about 5 to 6 minutes. Beautiful looking dough. Into a grease bowl this goes to double in size for the next hour to hour and 1/2. After a nice doubling in size, boop, it should do that. Out it comes. Woo, beautiful stuff, I tell ya. Once we form a nice little rectangle here that is about the size of our intended loaf pan, just gonna roll this guy on up. Go ahead and pinch this seam together on the bottom. I must admit, when it comes to rolling doughs like this, I am not very good at it. It's why my loaves always come out looking a little wonky, but hey, practice makes perfect, am I right, folks? And into our greased little loaf pan we go. And now we're gonna let this double in size for the next 30 to, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. And now that our dough is looking nice and plump, we're gonna hit this with a bit of an egg wash. Quite simply, just 1 beaten egg with a splash of milk. Make sure everything's looking as beautiful as possible. Beautiful. Now into a 375-degree oven this goes for about 30 minutes. And just like that, our beautiful bread is nice and golden and out of the oven. And I gotta say, that is a lot taller than I anticipated it would be. I'm pretty sure I used the wrong size loaf pan, so this was too much dough for this pan. But I think it'll work out great because brisket is kind of awkward shaped as opposed to a typical Katsu Sando, which are nice and square. So I think having some extra height will work out in our advantage. But now we need to let this cool down completely, which gives us plenty of time to knock out a quick Katsu sauce. Starting with some ketchup, a splash of some Worcestershire sauce, a little bit of oyster sauce, as well as some honey. And we'll just get that all mixed together. Beautiful. And at long last, I think it's time to see how this brisket came out. Ooh, that feels nice and tender. And it would appear I punctured my boat at some point, so must have done it before the wrap. That's fine. Oops. Thing's got plenty of fat in it still. Beautiful looking bark on there. This thing rested for a solid, I don't know, 15 hours or so. And it's feeling nice and tender. Let's cut it up. Yeah, that's looking pretty nice and juicy. Smelling nice and smoky. Beautiful smoke ring on there. What's not to like about that, folks? Yes, please. Get a little center cut, maybe 2. Beautiful looking lean. Yeah, not much to complain about there. It does in fact bend, if that's something you're into. But today what we're really after is some of this fatty brisket. Go ahead and take this burn end off. And there we go. A beautiful Wagyu. Nice and tender. Nicely rendered. Beautiful brisket. And of course we got some lovely burn ends. Might just have to give that little morsel a quick little taste, am I right? Oh my God. That is so good. Very rich. Beautifully smoky. Lovely flavor on that. All right, let's get a couple more slices out of this jiggly bastard. Ooh. And there it is, my favorite slice of the entire brisket right there. Gotta love that. So impossibly juicy too. Gotta love that bark, marbling, all of it. I'm gonna go for some pretty thick boys today. I mean, come on, folks. Couple more. Gotta love a good fatty brisket, am I right? Just gonna keep on going. What a magnificent pile of beautiful fatty brisket. Love it. And now to make the breading process a little bit easier, I'm gonna pop these in the fridge for just a little bit to cool down. Let's go ahead and see how this bread came out. To be completely honest, it's probably my worst loaf of bread on the channel. But hey, at the end of the day, can't argue with that. Looks good enough to me. Smelling good, looking good. It's a beautiful piece of bread if I do say so, even if it did bake up kind of funky. Now with the Katsu Sando, first thing you gotta do, like a 10-year-old with a PB&J, is cut the crust off. These are little bread burn ends. And there we have it, a perfect little square of some milk bread. All right, and now we've got our classic 3-tier breading station, starting with some all-purpose flour, some beaten eggs, and of course, some lovely panko breadcrumbs. So take our beautiful slice of fatty brisket and go through each one of these stages. Flour sticks to the brisket, the eggs stick to the flour, and don't forget the sides, folks. Come on. And the panko sticks to the eggs. Ooh, this feels really weird, guys. I haven't put brisket into a deep fryer in a while. Well, since the brisket rangoon video, I suppose. Couple of weeks, anyway. But never done it quite like this. And there we have it. For this next one, I'm gonna cut this in half. That way it's got a slightly better chance of not falling apart, one, and also being the correct size for the bread we just cut up. Oh yeah. And last time I checked, I don't think anyone's ever done this before, which is kind of shocking. This seems right up Nick DiGiovanni or Max and Meat Guy's alley, but you know, someone's got to do it, folks. Might as well be me. Although Max or Nick, if you see this, please follow suit. I'd love to see your take on it. Beautiful. All right, folks, and now into the fryer we go. And a lot of people were asking what I'm going to do with all that Wagyu beef fat that I used to fry a turkey for Thanksgiving. You're looking at it. So yes, this is in fact Wagyu brisket, smoked to perfection, dipped in panko breadcrumbs, and then fried in Wagyu beef tallow. It's a bit much, I know. But again, this is already fully cooked, obviously, so we're just trying to get some beautiful golden color. Should not take long. And like 45 seconds later, That's what we're looking at, folks. Looking good to me. Out it comes. Here comes the big boy. What a beautiful sight. And of course, right as these are coming out, I'm gonna hit them with a little bit of flaky salt, just to make sure our breading is nicely seasoned. How can something so wrong feel so right? Good Lord. I can hear the comments now. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, but I don't know, these are looking pretty sweet. Ooh, what a fit. All right, folks, moment of truth. Let's cut this thing in half and see how we did. And there it is, the beautiful Wagyu brisket Katsu Sando. That's funny with that sauce, it almost looks like it's medium rare. Beautiful, nice barky side. Don't mind if I do. I mean, what's not to like here, folks? Beautiful, fluffy, butter toasted bread full of deep fried Wagyu brisket cooked to perfection. Ah, I gotta dive in. I gotta say, folks, I'm pretty excited about this one. No time to waste. Oh, that is so good. Wow, that worked out perfectly. Still nice and tender, still nice and hot, by the way. You got that fluffy bread, that tasty sauce that tastes a lot like a barbecue sauce, so it really does make sense to have it with brisket. You know, I always thought it was kind of weird to put a ketchup-based sauce on a Wagyu steak sandwich, because I'd never put ketchup on a steak, but most barbecue sauces are mostly ketchup anyway, so this works out well. So smoky, yet deep fried. Gluttony at its finest. That's a phenomenal bite. It is a little bit dry, as are most sandwiches that are covered in panko breadcrumbs and then put back onto bread. But luckily that brisket is nice and fatty, making up for it. And we always got more sauce. Boop, boop, boop. The crunch. Very nice addition to a very soft brisket. Yeah, the extra sauce helps. That is truly a phenomenal bite. Damn, so good. I'm also pretty impressed that this brisket held together in the deep fryer. I mean, that was very tender. It was cooked to tenderness, and it's a Wagyu. They always tend to fall apart, but held up well. That's ridiculous. This is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime situation, folks, so I better enjoy myself. It's like the best chicken strip you ever had in your life. You know, I really thought this was gonna be one of those one bite and off camera kind of nights, but this is too good. So good. Do you want a fried brisket sandwich?
I'll take a bite. I'm also not wearing shoes.
All right, I'll come feed you.
It's like a meatloaf sandwich.
That's the biggest insult I've ever heard. Like the concept and also how good it is just ridiculous. Definitely made way too many, tell you that much. I made a bunch because, you know, I assumed one of them would break or something in the fryer, but they all came out looking pretty good. So to save me from myself, I'm gonna go knock on some neighbors' doors real quick. Look at that meaty boy. That's what I'm talking about. Well, turns out that that's a pretty easy thing to get rid of. But without further ado, I think it's time for the official taste test. All right, it's almost Christmas time. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make an absolutely ridiculous Wagyu brisket Katsu Sando. If you got some extra brisket lying around that you're not quite sure what to do with, I highly recommend giving this a try. Especially if you just grab some white bread and a barbecue sauce, you can put this together real quick. And yeah, it's mildly unhealthy and a little over the top, but hey, sometimes you just gotta treat yourself. But that being said, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. Let YouTube know by dropping a like on this video. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, be sure to tag me on Instagram at Chuds BBQ. I'd love to see what y'all are cooking. Big shout out to all the Patreon members. Thank you for supporting Team Chud and allowing me to keep making all these videos. And until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace!